ghostly squadron standing down beside the Rio Grande. A mythical commander beckons with a ghostly hand. Like the old and fabled phoenix, they'll rise to fly again, to perpetuate the spirit of the peace they helped to win. They rose to fight at Schweinfurt, Pearl Harbor, and Cologne. They filled the skies of Britain, Ploesti and Bastogne. They bore intrepid airmen across embattled skies. The legend of their conquest enshrined in history lies. Ghost Squadron, Ghost Squadron, gallant planes and valiant men, gallant planes and valiant men.
At the outset of World War II, America found itself a fifth-rate air power, that much behind Germany, Japan, England, even Italy. However, because of the American free enterprise system and our highly competitive operation in this country, by 1940, technologically, we were even ahead of Germany and Japan. All that we needed now were orders that would transform our technological skill into weapons of war.
Arrival home of Al Breck, cameraman who filmed the Pearl Harbor attack. He was for 20 months with our Pacific Fleet. In the war crisis, Movie Tone sent him to Hawaii and kept him there. So he was on the scene when the treacherous blow was dealt. In the surprise assault, American warplanes were caught on the ground and bombed. Most of them were disabled. That crippled our air opposition to the Japs, and their planes were able to swarm over the harbor and bomb and torpedo the warships there. A bomb hit caused the Arizona to blow up. The attack was carried out by Jap torpedo planes together with dive bombers and horizontal bombers coming in waves. In a chance hit, a bomb went down a smokestack of the Arizona and exploded the forward magazine. With the stricken vessel, we see the battleships Tennessee and West Virginia hit and on fire.
Following the attack on Pearl Harbor, an isolationist Congress and a complacent America awoke to reality, and America began to turn its industrial might into a war production machine, which within 12 months was equaling the production of all the Axis nations combined. By 1945, the Axis was engulfed in a sea of American war production, and free men of the world had met and defeated the professional soldiers of Germany and Japan in the air, on the land, and on the sea. Following the Japanese surrender, the mighty armada of piston-powered aircraft that had won the skies on every battlefront of the globe became obsolete, war surplus, at almost the same time. Existing without military justification, they were systematically destroyed. The Wright brothers, with their aerial experiments at the turn of the century, could scarcely have envisioned the outcome in terms of human advancement and technological application. But whatever else they may have given man, they gave him a new dimension, and with it, a new romance. So it was when the first war surplus P-51 Mustang appeared at a small airport near Mercedes, Texas in the late 1950s. For the 5 men who would own and fly the Mustang, it was the fulfillment of an old and exciting dream. The powerful Mustang was a real pleasure, but it was soon discovered that you could not run a race or have a dogfight with just one airplane. In 1959, the Mercedes Group acquired an F-8F Grumman Bearcat. This gave the group the latest propeller-driven fighters to see service with both the U.S. Air Force and the U.S. Navy during World War II. And word of the flying fighters of the outfit called the Confederate Air Force began to spread. Although it was the day of the jet fighter, the colonels were invited to fly their aircraft in an exhibition of the United States Navy during the Navy Relief Festorama and Air Show at Kingsville, Texas in 1960. These shows instilled in the Mercedes Group a growing awareness of the public's venerable attitude toward these valiant aircraft from an honorable, heroic time in our nation's history. And this awareness led to the decision to acquire as many World War II fighter types as pilots could be found to support. And the time was running out. By the time they started their first visits to the military aircraft storage and disposal centers, entire inventories of World War II aircraft, type after type, had already been destroyed, and the disposal centers were engaged in the destruction of post-war propeller-driven aircraft. And the colonels made a startling discovery. No one was attempting to preserve even one of each type of these historic aircraft for museum display purposes. the members of the Mercedes group, these planes were symbols of some of America's greatest victories. And by now they had decided that the American people were in the mood for tales of heroism and adventure. So they decided to create a museum of these airplanes, practically all the models that were used in World War II. A flying museum that they could take around America. The city of Harlingen, Texas, 15 miles east of Mercedes, would donate facilities at an old World War II air base that had become a part of the city's air park and industrial complex. The Confederate Air Force inventory had grown to consist of more than 60 of the great combat aircraft flown by the Allied and Axis nations during World War II. Most of the aircraft were now painted in authentic World War II markings, and they had become widely known as the Ghost Squadron. As the Ghost Squadron collection grew, air shows developed that depicted the aircraft in characteristic combat action. The mighty B-17 Flying Fortress, the workhorse of every battlefront of the war, it became a part of the reenactment of the raid on Pearl Harbor by Japanese carrier forces on December 7, 1941. A day described by a resolute President Roosevelt as one that will live in infamy. A flight of B-17s was arriving at Hickam Field in Hawaii on that fateful Sunday morning, and they found themselves in the midst of a war which had not yet been declared.
display of aircraft that you're seeing here at this opening day of air show. And high overhead, we've got a hit. The Japanese hero has been hit by the Curtiss P-40 Warhawk that got off the ground just a moment ago. Trailing smoke through the skies, you can remember that day, December the 7th, 1941, ladies and gentlemen. And the Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress trying to make it back in, trailing smoke. Wait a minute, somebody get a hold of something. We've only got one gear on the B-17. But there's only one gear down on the B-17. Call the tower. Somebody shoot a flare. Don't let him land. Don't. Oh, don't.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's a man that knows how to fly an airplane.
Gentlemen, that's the way it was. December the 7th, 1941, the day of infamy, Pearl Harbor.
High adventure of an unusual nature became commonplace as additional World War II combat aircraft types were discovered in remote corners of the globe and brought to Harlingen to join the Ghost Squadron. A 4-year search for a B-29 Super Fortress ended in the middle of the Mojave Desert in California. The huge bombers were discovered in abandoned disarray on a desert valley floor where they were beginning to succumb to the final stages of deterioration after 17 years of exposure and neglect. A a Confederate Air Force colonel was assigned the responsibility of selecting a restorable aircraft from the derelict, ghostly cluster of Boeing superfortresses. Their control surfaces were rotted from exposure to the desert sun. Tires were shreds, remnants of what they once had been. An inspection of the entire group of aircraft was made before ship number 31 was selected, and the awesome job of restoration was begun. Confederate Air Force crews operating hundreds of miles from home base performed a maintenance miracle on the B-29. Local military officials felt, however, that test flights would be prohibitively hazardous to highly secret test facilities in the surrounding area. In accordance with wishes of the military people, who had been very cooperative throughout the effort, the B-29 flight crew decided that once the aircraft became airborne, they would continue the flight to Harlingen, Texas. On August 2nd, 1971, the big Boeing Superfortress became airborne for the first time in 17 years. Many great personalities would join the honorary ranks of the Confederate Air Force officers, including Lord Louis Mountbatten, Earl of Burma, British statesman and naval leader, Supreme Allied Commander of the China-Burma-India Theater of War during World War II.
It is my distinct honor and privilege to appoint you to the honorary position of Colonel, Confederate Air Force.
Ladies and gentlemen, to Air Show 80. Ernie Ford's going to join us on the announcing staff as the aircraft of the training command take off.
These airplanes you see now are the training airplanes our men trained in to go into World War II, from primary, basic, and then the AT-6 is the advanced trainer that they trained in to go into our fighter planes. Now, close your eyes for just 10 seconds. You have gone back in time over 3.5 decades. The date is 1936. The place is Spain, only 18 years after the end of World War I, the war to end all wars. The conquered is preparing to become the conqueror once again. In violation of the Treaty of Versailles in 1918, Germany is rearming under the leadership of a fanatic dictator named Adolf Hitler. And amidst the carnage and killing of the Spanish Civil War, Hitler's reborn German Luftwaffe tests its weapons against living human targets in preparation for his planned conquest of Europe and then the world. You are in Spain. You are about to see the curtain lift on what is to become the Second World War. An obsolete Loyalist biplane flying in Spanish skies is attacked by a killer hawk, the newly developed but yet untested Messerschmitt Me-109.
Unser teures deutsches Reich ging ein!
Hitler prepares to invade England in the fall of 1940. He orders Field Marshal Hermann Goering to neutralize British air defenses. What came to be known as the Battle of Britain was fought in August and September of 1940. When it was over, 84 days and nights of almost constant attack, the Germans lost more than 1,700 aircraft against 900 British planes destroyed. By mid-September, it was obvious that Goering's Luftwaffe had failed to drive the RAF from the skies, and Hitler was forced to postpone Operation Sea Lion, the invasion of England. Churchill himself symbolizes the bulldog stubbornness of the British people, and he paid magnificent tribute to the handful of intrepid Royal Air Force pilots with these very words.
Today, the Confederate Air Force World War II air power demonstration is like a mirror on the past, where this and future generations may catch fleeting glimpses of a time in which every American can take pride, a time when our free enterprise competitive system brought the nation from a fifth-rated military power in the air to the most powerful nation on earth, and doing it in only 3.5 years. aircraft of the Ghost Squadron are typical of those which defended our nation and won the skies on every battlefront of the globe. Some rose to fight at Pearl Harbor. They fought over the Coral Sea, the Battle of Midway, the Solomons, Guadalcanal, Bougainville, Rabaul, and Burma. Across North Africa, Ploesti, Sicily, and on into Italy. Salerno, Anzio, and they bombed and fought in daylight raids over Europe. Frankfurt, Cologne, Schweinfurt, Hamburg. They fought over the heads of Allied soldiers from Normandy to Berlin. They fought from the Sahara Desert to the Aleutians. They won the skies and blasted the islands of New Guinea, Ulithia, Saipan, Leyte, Luzon, Iwo Jima, Okinawa, and on to Japan. In less than 4 years, fighting a global war on 3 continents and over the vast Pacific Ocean, the swastika and the rising sun had been beaten into unconditional surrender. All Americans, both young and old, should never, never be allowed to forget our accomplishments during those years.